Okay, today I am joined by Matt the Beast Bonner, former Cage Warriors World Champion, former Octagon fighter, and that is obviously why we are chatting today. I'm sure a lot of people will have seen this already. There was a list that was put out by Octagon, and I believe that there were some names that weren't on their list that were also kind of added to a secondary list at some stage of fighters that have been released. The majority of them being UK fighters because they explained it on their Twitter. I'm sure people have seen it already. Like I said, but you can check it out as to why they have released a bunch of fighters. And Matt, you were on that list, but as you kind of mentioned just now, and I think some people will already know. I'm sure I saw it on one of your social media pages at some point about how you were kind of in a difficult position with Octagon anyway, where you were having to look for a release. And so this is something unlike a lot of the fighters on this list who I'm sure they might have heard rumblings that this was going to happen, but it probably was somewhat of a surprise. This is something that you expected to happen for you because it was something you were pushing for, right?
Yeah, yeah, to a degree. It was to make it clear. My last fight was in January against Mitty Peñas in Newcastle. Obviously, I lost that fight, and as a fighter, you expect that there's going to be a few months in between fights. The organisation is a big production. They're not going to. Matt Bodder's not Octagon's priority. You expect them to give you 3 or 4 months before they get you back on again. So we started contacting them again in May, just with an idea of when will I be out again? Is there any news? And it just kind of kept going through this kind of fortnightly process where it was, is there any news? No. Is there any news? No. Is there any news? No. And it wasn't even just a no in terms of it wasn't no, but listen, we've got something coming up for you. It was just a very hard no, and communication was very tricky. And it was the breakdown of communication really, which was the big issue. If Ox are going to turn around and said, "Listen, man, we know you're a bit frustrated. We're going to get you out October, November. Don't worry." I'd still be signed and still be happy to wait and wait for that late fight.
Yeah, I think that again, Octagon's statement kind of echoes that. Like, obviously it's incredibly rare for a promotion to release that many fighters at the same time. I don't know if I've ever seen that happen before,
Mm.
unless a promotion was like, we're not running shows anymore, which obviously they still are. But the statement says about how they've got a couple of really big events coming up this year, and so there just isn't time in their schedule for a UK show, right? And so when you say about reaching out to them and not getting a message, it kind of seemed like, I mean, not to say that your experience is part of the reason why this has happened, but it does seem like they couldn't give people answers as to when they were going to be able to book people because they didn't know when they're coming back to the UK. It seems like maybe it might be early next year. Personally, I don't know if that is going to be the case. And so I think a lot of people were in the same boat as you, the people on that list of
Mm.
it's the uncertainty that has led to Octagon being like, okay, well, we're just going to let people go rather than stringing them along until because we don't even know when it will be.
And that's the concern. It was, I was signed to a 20-month contract, which started last November. 20 months or a 4 fight deal, whichever one came first. And you think, are they just going to wait till the end of this 20-month contract and then just get rid? Is that what's going to happen? I've always been active in my career. I've always, at the absolute minimum, wanted 4 fights. I've had 1 fight this year. Obviously, I did fight in November as well. So November and the January show were quite close together. But there's a need for me to compete, especially I'm 33 years old now. I don't know how long I've got left in the business. It might be 5 years. It might be 6 months. You just don't know. And so there's a real kind of motivation for me to get fighting, and Octagon just couldn't provide that. And it's a real shame. The Octagon product is really really good. It was just literally the communication between them and my manager and me, which was really poor. Ironically, I got a message on Tuesday by Andre, who's for anyone who doesn't know, he's the one of the promoters. He's the guy who's the MC as well. He's the big 6'5" fella, and he messaged and he was a little bit disappointed. He said that maybe he felt that it wasn't fair, some of the things that I'd said, and I won't go too much because it was a private conversation. But I thought it's ironic. The whole thing I've moaned about is you're not communicating, and now I leave, and now you've bothered to message me. And he's not even replied to the message I sent back. So it kind of just all just extremely frustrating.
Yeah, is there, I suppose, a silver lining to it, like you said, in that, like, this is something you said before we started recording about how, whilst on one hand, it's like, compared to a lot of the fighters on this list, this is something you were pushing for because you knew
Mm.
you had these kind of feelings already about this probably isn't going to resolve itself. Like, I'm probably not going to get news of a fight, so this is probably going to be the decision I'm going to have to make. But also at the same time, it's not, a positive bit of news, because if Octagon had offered you fights, it's not like you would have gone, oh, well, I'm already leaving. You just want fights. It's not like,
Well,
hooray, I'm
yeah,
gone. Fights.
that's it.
It's the whole thing.
If Octagon sent me an email tomorrow or my manager and said, listen, let bygones be bygones, because I've not fell out with them. I've got no resentments of them at all. Listen, we're going to get you out in October, September. I'd sign a contract like that. I'd go back. This is, again, another issue was they did offer me a fight it was the Prague show, the show that Shamrock was on. It was against Kepo. He said, listen, Matt, we know you're moving down to welterweight. We've got Kepo at middleweight, fights in 2 weeks' time. And I said, fine, I'll take that fight, 100%. Didn't get back to me. 3 days later, Seppo was moved to a fight in Bratislava, which he's just pulled out from this week. So again, it's the communication. It's if they came back and said, okay, sorry, the Kepo fight's off the table. He's decided not to fight. Well, we felt like maybe there's a better option for him. It's fine, but again, it's that radio silence that is just massively frustrating. And I was kind of trying to get that across to Andre, and I don't know, maybe he didn't quite understand, but that's the main problem for me. It's just have that common courtesy and let me know what's going on, because it's my life and I've got a young son, a young family, and I've got a business that's starting to grow. I can focus on these other things. I just need to know, if I'm coming or going.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there at least I suppose I kind of mentioned this already, but is there at least a silver lining in the um there are very, very probable scenarios where other promotions would do kind of what you said was maybe a concern of, you are contracted to 4 fights or 20
Mm.
months. They can just choose to wait out that period if they want, just in case they decide we are going to come back to the UK and we do need you. Obviously, no one wants to wake up and see a list of like 20 odd fighters that have been released from contracts that all suddenly need to go and find a new promotion, right? That's obviously incredibly tough news.
Mm.
But at the same time, they could have very much done that, and they are in their rights to do that because of the
Mm.
contracts, right?
Yeah. Well, this is another thing Andre said on the message. He said, um, we've not broke contract. You had the 2 fights, and he's absolutely right. They never broke any kind of contract or anything. And like you said, they've at least had the decency to say, okay, Matt wants to be released, or we're not on a string along these other people, as it might look bad for us on it might generate some bad media for us. So maybe we'll release them a little bit slower, or maybe we won't release them full stop until the contract expires. So there is a decency in that, and yeah, I can definitely appreciate that they could have held on and said, because let's face it, I signed the contract. I signed the contract. If anyone's broke the contract, it's actually me. It's just again, I just kind of I figured that maybe I'd get out there a little bit more. It was again going back to it. It was literally just a communication issue. That's the only thing. That's why all this is crumbled away.
Yeah, I think that's the crucial part,
Mm.
specifically in your case, is that, because I'm sure there are a lot of fighters in other promotions that would look and go, 6 months to wait for a fight. That's not too bad. There are some people that struggle to get that, but it's the fact that you have been trying to get a fight for
Mm.
the last however many months and not hearing a date, right, is the crucial part. Not just the
Yeah,
not getting a fight in 6 months, it's the not being
yeah.
told anything in a few
Because I
months.
mean, the issue is it's been 6 months now, but then there's absolutely no. It wasn't like I was going to fight tomorrow. So
Mhm.
then you probably wait another month, and then you have a full fighter camp, and there's another extra 2 months. So this 6 months can very quickly turn into 9, 10 months. So like I said, if Octagon had said, okay, we know you like to keep busy. We'll get you out once more before the end of the year. We promise we'll get you out. We won't be doing this interview, and I won't be released from cage from Octagon.
When it comes to the next steps for you, I'm sure that for like you've already said, it's not necessarily about it's just about the fight, right? You just want to stay
Mm.
active at
Yeah,
this point in your career. So I'm sure that the immediate plan is just to get a fight wherever you end up getting a fight. But is there kind of a preferred route for you to take at this point?
It's a tricky one because I look at this from the perspective as a fighter, like you just said, and I'm looking at getting out and fighting. Volkanovski's talks about this quite a lot. The lull between fights and training camps and whatnot, and I've been doing this for going on 20 odd years now, and there's always been something there to aim for. And I've struggled, honestly, all bullshit. I've really struggled, like, kind of mentally to, what do I do with myself? I'm lucky that I've got a business and I've got my son to get me up out of bed, and I think that gets me to work and keeps me motivated. But I've really struggled. But then my manager, he's looking at, he wants the best for me financially. So there's that kind of like friction point there where he's, I'll take a domestic fight tomorrow. I don't think he'd even he'd allow it. So yeah, next steps, I have no idea. I've just kind of, I have to sit back and just let it all go. I'm a very impatient person a lot of the time. This is what's come out of this. My coach, you're really impatient. I think, well, 6 months. I think that's a little bit of patience, but we'll see. We'll see what the next steps are, and hopefully something will come up soon, and we'll get some bites back from some promotions. But yeah, I'd fight tomorrow. But we're talking about a sport these days. It's not a fight that the pub on the weekend. It's financially. That's why we moved to Octagon. It was a financial move. It wasn't. I was doing well at Cage Warriors. I was fighting 4 or 5 times a year. The reason we moved to Octagon was that it was much more a financial decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously, I'm not. I imagine this interview will drop the week after the releases came out, but we are literally recording this like not even a full day after. So this is like super early news. Like I should have mentioned this at the start. Actually, did you know already before they put that post out that you had been released? Had you been told
Yeah,
before?
yeah. I think I got told. I can't remember if it was this Monday or last Monday, but yeah, I was told before the release. I don't
Okay.
know if that was the case for the other fighters who were released. But yeah, I had a message from my manager saying been released, and I didn't know what he meant because there was a couple of things that I'd asked if I could have a fight release, so if Octagon would let me go and fight elsewhere, and then keep me busy, kind of what Dennis Frimpong and whatnot asked for. I know he's eventually lost as well, but a fight release and then just keep me busy, and then maybe go and fight Octagon at the end of the year. So when he said I've got your release, I was like, oh, nice, fight release. It's keeping me busy. It means I've still kept a relationship with Octagon, but no, it was a full release.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, like I said, we're still in like pretty early days. So I'm sure, we will catch up with you. Hopefully you'll have some news in a couple of weeks, at the very least. So I'm sure, we'll keep up to date with what your plans are and stuff like that, because I'm sure there will be some news in the next couple of weeks. But yeah. Until then, Matt, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for jumping on so quickly as well. And
Oh, no worries at all.
being so honest about everything, because I know that it kind of been easy, but at the same time, like you said,
Mm.
there are some silver linings to take from this, even though I'm sure a lot of people were disappointed to hear that news, and yourself included. But like I said, we will keep up to date with everything that is happening regarding your situation in the next few weeks. So I hope that you get a fight offer soon, and like you said, hopefully it isn't just a fight down the pub, like you said. Hopefully it is something a bit more long term.
Smash it. Thanks for having me.
No problem, mate. Thanks again, mate. And yeah, have a good rest of your day, and we'll catch you soon.
Yeah, you too, mate. Have a good weekend, and I'll
All
see
right.
you soon.